Well, Sharon Messmore from CUES, welcome to see you on the show. I'm delighted to have you join me today to talk about one of my favorite geeky data points in the credit union industry, the 2025 CUES Executive Compensation Survey.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So on my right screen, I have the survey. So viewers, as much as I love you and would like to engage with you visually the whole time, I'm going to need to look to the right a little bit as we look through the survey, some points I wanted to ask Sharon some questions on and just see what we can garner from this year's survey, what's different from the years past, what does CUES see as the key takeaways, and then maybe most importantly, how should credit unions go about using the survey with a comp consultant, with CUES itself. Maybe let's start there, Sharon. Like, what are the best practices for, you read this data, because most of my listeners are senior executives. You hear about this data, you get the survey because you're a CUES member, and then what do? What's next?
Yeah, well, you look at it and then you say, what data am I missing? And we are trying to be transparent about where we're getting the data from, the different regions, the different areas. If you're going in and looking in the survey portal that we offer for members and subscribers, you can cut and slice and dice down to different locations and different types of fields of membership, things like that. And you'll notice that we do not have every single credit union in the US in our data.
Yeah, 286 credit unions this year.
Yes. So what we would be encouraging you to do is using not only our data, but other data, looking around so that you're getting a good full picture of what it looks like nationwide. And then once you have that, you need to be thinking about what is your value for the organization in terms of not only what you're bringing with your role, but also how you've had an impact on the members this past year. And so you want to be thinking about that membership piece and how are you going to serve the members in the best way with what you're doing for the next year in terms of using that money well.
You're getting into compensation philosophy, which I had questions about that. So 286 members participating in the survey. Is that kind of a normal number? Is that higher than average? Higher or lower than average? Is that a normal figure for your surveys over the years?
It's fairly consistent with surveys over the years. It's a little bit lower than past couple. And so, of course, every year we're always looking for new ways to try and get that number back up to where we would like it to be, which is much higher. We'd love to get all of the credit unions.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's very time, there's a time element, and they get asked many times,
yes,
right, to fill out surveys. Has there been any sort of project to try to have a central warehouse of the data that truly was industry wide that could be shared by credit unions? As a credit union-y thing to do to kind of collect the data and do an industry thing? Is there anything ever been discussed about that?
We've not been in any conversations around one data set for all credit unions.
Who would own that? That could be really,
but
that'd be a heck of a project.
Yeah, there's also the idea of, even if we get that, well, what about banks and fintechs and others? You want to be competitive, you want to be comparing to those. So it's even a bigger project than just the credit union space. We need all the financial industries.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because that's who you're competing with for talent too, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of detail that we don't have enough time to cover today, as far as the degrees and male and female. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting, I've always enjoyed the fact that the variable comp is directly correlated, strongly correlated with credit union size, right? As you go up, it really gets to be a substantial part of the comp. Can you talk at all about those details as far as how you see that correlation? And then is there a trend? Like with this, we just have the 1 year data, so we don't have like maybe if you're a full subscriber, you get access to the previous year's data. Is that an increasing trend? Is the variable comp component going up at smaller credit union sizes? Are you seeing anything like that?
We do always see every year that compensation is tied to that asset size. So the larger you are, the more compensation is tied to that. And as we're seeing credit union compensation increasing every year, I don't have the exact data point, but I think we can reasonably and safely assume that that is across all asset sizes, that 50 million credit union 10 years ago has increased in a similar way to a larger one.
Exactly.
We're seeing that that change is happening, and that's certainly something to keep an eye on and be aware of. It's not just that base salary, but what are you doing elsewhere within the credit union?
Yeah, the I noticed that the median CEO comp rose 5.9% in 25, and that was 5.1% increase in base plus bonus and a 7.6% gain in base salary. How are those two different numbers? Can you explain that part?
I
No?
don't know that I can. I
Okay.
don't know that I
That's
have
a
knowledge to explain that.
That's perfectly fine. So editor, we're going to get rid of that question. And so I'll go again and say, so median CEO total comp rose 5.9% in 2025. And I'm used to about a 7% rate of growth in CEO comp. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what I've seen in past CUES surveys over the years. So maybe a 1% slowdown in the median total comp, if my memory serves about what that number is. Does that resonate for you, Sharon? Does that sound right? That it's a slight decrease in the rate of increase?
On that median,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
For average, we see a quite larger jump. Base salary is staying about the same for that median amount, but then total compensation did go down slightly from what we're used to seeing.
Right. The total increase in compensation, not
Yes.
actually
Sorry,
decrease.
yes, total
That
increase.
that would be
Percentage.
that'd be a whole different conversation, wouldn't it? But some roles went up a good bit faster than the CEO. Can you talk about any of those sort of highlight roles where their pay rate went up quicker than the senior executive?
Yes, so that chief administrative and operating officer had quite a large increase, chief operations officer, and then some other roles that we see perhaps maybe having some more specialized training involved with them, such as risk and legal have increases there.
Yeah, didn't legal go down? I thought I saw legal go down, and I was like, wait, did I
I
read
was
that
looking at
right?
the HR line. Yes, legal went down. HR went up to that 10%. I was looking for those 10% numbers. Uh,
Yeah, I was really, really surprised by that, an actual decrease. So a 9% median increase in base salary, but a 15% rise in total comp for the chief administration, chief operating officer. Any idea what's behind that role getting such a change?
only speculation. We don't have any
We
hard
welcome
data,
speculation here,
but
Sharon, and we welcome that.
yes, my speculation is historically we think of the CFO as the main person for succession planning. I think
Mm,
we might be starting to see some trends in the chief administrative officer being leaned on in that role as well.
interesting. Interesting. So maybe shrinking the spread between the CEO comp and the chief administration officer comp. Very interesting. And then as you mentioned a minute before, actually legal counsel executives reported a median decrease of 4.6% in total comp. And now that's just really unusual. to see an actual decrease. Is that like a statistical aberration, do we think, or is it a actual pay cut?
It's hard to know. Again, because this is same sample, we can't just say fewer legal executives, and that's why.
There's
So
not
I
that many to
don't,
begin with, right? It's only
not
the
that many
very
to begin with.
largest. I bet you that's a tiny sample size because there's so few credit unions that have a legal officer.
Yes. So I think that just may be an indication that people are possibly combining roles, including legal and somewhere else, or starting to think of that role no longer as an executive and kind of moving it out of that range.
Yeah, one of the key sentences I noticed in the survey was um, considerations for compensation planning. Results indicate the credit unions are increasingly using variable pay as a lever to retain and motivate senior talent, especially in lending, operations, and compliance. Boards should ensure that bonus plans remain clearly linked to measurable performance and sustainable growth. Regularly reviewing incentive structure along base salary benchmarks can help balance competitiveness, accountability, and predictability. And that, excuse me, that's an interesting um, detail because I think in the executives that I work for, we see a lot of folks without a contract, an amazing number of executives without a contract, and amazing with a number with kind of an informal compensation structure, even in billion-dollar plus credit unions. So this idea that boards would make sure that the bonus plans are linked specifically to those designed outcomes is one that makes a lot of sense, but I think is maybe not as prevalent as it should be. Any thoughts on the spread between those two areas, or how a credit union executive that thinks they might have that situation might start to have a dialogue about something different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important that there are clear and structured plans, not only to help the board know how to plan out their finances, but also speaking for myself, from a younger generation, as we're more and more in the workforce, our generation and the generations below us value a lot of pay transparency. And
Mhm.
having that formal plan in place is going to really help when you're speaking with more people coming into the workforce who really care about transparency and want to see why people are being paid what they're being paid. And having that direct correlation is going to be really helpful. So that could be a starting point. I know credit unions are always thinking about how are we reaching younger people? How are we getting younger people in? Well, if you have younger employees, and they know that there's good pay transparency and they understand the values of the credit union, that's going to be a big draw. That's going to help. And then also it's going to be helpful as you're thinking about succession planning and
Mhm.
trying to get people in place. It's not just, well, this is what we paid the last person because they had good vibes. It's this is what we're paying them, and these are the expectations we'll have of you. And then you can have that roadmap for training them up into those expectations as well.
Transparency, consistency, some good corporate policies. So continuing on down in the survey, there's a CEO trends page that is my personal favorite, I must say. And let's talk a little bit about that. Increasing eligibility for bonuses didn't surprise me, and 95% or something of credit unions have a bonus program. I've never seen one that doesn't have. There's only like four, I guess, that don't have a bonus program. It's interesting. Average CEO bonus rose from $102,000 in 24 to $109,000 in 25. Median bonus amounts rising as well. And the increases of the bonus were largest at the largest credit unions. That doesn't seem shocking to me, right? That makes sense. Car allowances is a popular program that continues. About 70% of credit unions getting a car allowance of about $1,000 a month, which sort of makes sense for the cost of vehicles these days. And then there's numerous other details on there, but those are the ones I'm used to seeing. I like it when they also get financial planning paid for, personal reasons. But car allowance, salary, bonus. Sometimes you'll get some kind of a membership club allowance. Sometimes I'll see long-term care insurance provided. I'd love to see medical. Retiree medical is something I'm starting to see in large credit unions. When you separate from service after a certain number of years, you can continue on the group medical plan. Are you capturing that data in the survey, Sharon? Are you seeing anything around retiree medical plans?
Not a lot. We have information around retirement and benefits, things along those lines, but we're not paying attention to trends in those. That's not part of something that we've pulled out, so I don't have any details
I
there.
think it would be a small group similar to the lawyers that are getting pay cuts in credit unions. The number of folks that get the retiree medical. I don't think it's a lot, but it's a valuable benefit. If you're going to retire at 62 and you can't get Medicare yet, you got to go into the Obamacare pool, which is a pretty great program, but is going to go up massively next year, as a result of the big beautiful bill. So let's move forward to contracts. I couldn't believe this number. In 2019, 43% of CEOs had contracts. In 24, it's only gotten up to 52%, 54% finally this year. Amazing to me that a large organization with this kind of scale and formality would not have employment contracts. Any thoughts around that or about what's happening there? It's an increase, but it's a really slow rate of increase. And again, personally, with the many credit unions we work for, it is almost the norm for me to not see contracts. And I worry that lack of formality could permeate some of the other board governance related issues. What thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I think both because it is growing. That's a good
That's good. Yeah, that's
that's a good
good.
thing there. Um, I could I could make a bunch of wild speculations. I don't know if I'm the right person to
That'd
be
be
making
great
wild
press. Great
speculations about
press, Sharon, if you
contracts.
want to do that. That's all right. Um, yeah, I know one of the, it says strategic considerations for boards is that the contracts have clear performance metrics, periodic reviews, well-defined termination provisions. We see, spend a lot of time analyzing and projecting executive comp structures, and the split dollar benefits and 457F plans that you see in credit unions. Those are hugely impactful, and they generally have a contract around them. And I think those are present in more than 54% of the credit unions. I think that's a pretty safe statement. It's just surprising to me that there would be a contract around the executive comp sub portion of the overall compensation, but not around the employment of the senior executive. And a disconnect that I at least don't currently understand. And then into succession planning, right? A big topic, NCUA focus. A lot of credit unions are formalizing, as is required, their succession planning outcomes. And that seems like another thing that the 56-year-old average CEO is got to be taking a formal process to, and that employment contract that I was talking to a CEO this week who said that he's been there 35 years. There is no employment contract. There's never been an employment contract. And he might go about putting one in solely for the purpose of his successor having a more formalized relationship with the board and compensation philosophy.
Mhm.
I imagine you don't want to take that any further, do you, Sharon?
I love to talk about succession planning. I think that's a great idea for him to be doing that and to be taking the initiative because sometimes what we see with succession planning is that the person whose succession is being planned might start to get a little jumpy if you start talking about succession planning, and they start to say, well, why are we talking about this now? I'm still planning to be here another 5 years.
Uh-oh.
But
Voluntary
you
or
need five
involuntary?
years to make that happen well, at least, right? And so having those contracts is going to be helpful. Thinking about that compensation is going to be helpful. Having those tied, bonus items that we were talking about, all of those things are all key for succession planning, and making sure that all the people you're planning to be succeeding are still at your credit union when then it's time for them to step into those roles.
So if you are a CUES member, does the entire survey get mailed or emailed to you, or what's it's a very noisy world, right? There's tons of messaging going out. Maybe some of our listeners are CUES members, but don't see this data come. Where is it? Where should you look for it? Help us to understand where to find it.
Yes, if you are a CUES Unlimited Plus member, this comes as part of your membership, and we don't send things out to you because we know things get lost in the mail, and
Mhm.
you're not going to see an email with a PDF. We have a reporting portal that's housed on our website that you can go into, and you can pull any report at any time with any configuration you'd like. So able to go in, just get that data. If you just want to see the CEO, if you're just looking at setting, you want to see the legal information, you can go in, you can pull that. You can pull for previous years as well if you wanted to look at trends. And then we also offer it as a purchase, where you would be able to do the same things if you purchase a subscription.
Is there a auto feature where you could email your CUES a friend and say, I'd like to know the data for HR chief HR officers for credit unions my size. Is that something the CUES provides, or do you need to research that data yourself?
They would be able to do it self-service, go right in and say, open up that portal, say chief HR officer, this asset range, and it'll spit it right back out. If they're looking for something more customized, if they want an aged report or something like that, we can handle those on a case-by-case basis.
Now, don't I remember from a survey and a podcast we did, you and I did like 2 or 3 years ago with the Industry Insights folks, that you guys have or had a calculator on your website, right? Where you could actually go and get a calculation done. Is that still there? And does that include this data?
We did have that. It is not there currently.
Ah,
We're doing a lot right now to rethink what does the survey look like for 2026. And so part of that involves, custom benchmark type reporting that we'll be able to provide, some rethinking of what the position descriptions are, and particularly when we think about a smaller size credit union versus larger, and who's doing roles and what those titles are. So we're doing a lot to rework and rethink. And so the calculator is not something that is a current availability, but there'll be a lot of features going into next year that we're excited about.
if you're not a CUES member, but you respond to the survey, do you end up getting free access to the data? Does it work like that?
Participants receive a discount if they choose to purchase.
Okay, so you get rewarded for the time it takes you to fill out the survey, because that's, I imagine, an effective tool of recruiting folks to fill out the survey. So very good. Well, Sharon, thank you and the CUES organization for the work that you do to support the credit union industry. I think this is a key data point to figure out how to make sure your comp is on target for the industry norms and in line with your strategic goals, and ideally designed to have those metrics that line up with where you want your credit union to go. So with that said, have a great rest of 2025, and thank you so much, Sharon.
Thank you.